Now, the tally of firearms stolen from the Norwood Police station has now topped 175. Earlier today, the Gauteng Legislature Community Safety Committee held an oversight visit at the station. The station commander, of course, has resigned in the wake of the findings. The stolen firearms are linked to an arms cache that was discovered in 2014. Our reporter, Barry Bateman, brings us the very latest on this case. And Barry, of course, you've been following this from the get-go. Originally, we heard about 158 firearms. Why has it gone up to 175 now?
Good afternoon, Sally. Well, as we understand it, the investigation is continuing. There was that audit that was conducted of the store. A report was handed over to the Hawks from the national level to the provincial level so they can continue the investigation. But we understand that there has continued being investigations at this particular store, and as a result of this, 17 more firearms have been found to be unaccounted for.
So obviously the thieving has stopped, but I want to know a little bit more about, who's being held responsible, because we know that the station commander resigned. We know that the store clerk committed suicide. That was the first, I think, inkling, the first thing you reported on, Barry. But do we know how far-reaching this network might have gone?
Those are some of the questions that were being asked by the Oversight Committee, and having spoken to the chairperson, Alfina Nomdlovu, afterwards, and she was explaining to me how the police appear to have tried to pin the blame primarily on the sergeant who took his own life. He was the store clerk. Fortunately, the committee chair is simply not buying this. She said quite clearly to me that we do not accept their explanation, and they've asked for a more comprehensive report. And what she described is, in a police station, you've got a hierarchy. You've got your juniors, and then you go up and you've got your officers. So there's a level of accountability as it goes up. And we've discussed this before, Sally. There's supposed to be checks and balances, and while there might be somebody on the ground actually handling the firearms and ensuring that those are certain entries in the books, there is somebody above him and the person above that to ensure that whatever's filled into those books is accurate and all the firearms, or whatever evidence, not just firearms, is actually accounted for. And this is what the Portfolio Committee chairperson is asking about, saying it simply cannot be one person who can be blamed for firearms. 175 we've got now that go missing over a period at least since 2014.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, possibly one firearm going missing could be the work of one person, but 175 firearms speaks to quite an organized operation. Barry, how many of these firearms have actually been recovered? Do we know?
At least two, Sally, and we know this because this is what started off the investigation. The one was a shootout in Brakpan. The police had got tipped off about a cash-in-transit robbery gang. The police moved in, got into a shootout with these individuals. Unfortunately, a police officer lost his life in that incident. But one of the firearms that was seized there, upon investigation, it was established that it ought to have been locked away in the safe at Norwood Police Station. And then there was another incident involving cash-in-transit robbers, this time in the Northwest Province. Again, a firearm seized by the police upon investigation. It was found it should have been locked up safe in the police's possession. This is what then prompted this investigation. The Hawks arrived at the Norwood Police Station, and it was then that the sergeant, the store clerk, went AWOL and took his own life.
But of course, I would imagine that a fair amount of those 170-odd firearms are still circulating and in the hands of criminals. Barry, what's going to happen next? Where are we with making sure that this matter is completely dealt with at Norwood, but also perhaps checking that it's not happening in other police stations?
Well, from what's happening at the station level, General Tommy Mtubeni, he's the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, was out there today, and I had a chat to him. First off, he's confirmed that there's been an entire shake-up of the management at Norwood Police Station. So we've got an acting station commander that's in, we've got the head of visible policing that's been moved at, as well as the head of detective services, as well as other senior managers that have been moved out. Of course, there are various protocols you've got to go through in the background. They're not suspended, they've been moved to other stations, I understand, but they're no longer there and capable of interfering in this investigation. There are other internal investigations taking place. This was told to us by the Provincial Commissioner, General Mamwela, about 2 weeks ago. For disciplinary purposes. And then, of course, there is the criminal matter that is taking place. But From a national perspective, Sally, we had it from the Police Portfolio Committee in Parliament. The chairperson there saying that they're calling for a nationwide audit of these SAP 13 stores to ensure that there is proper accounting of the evidence that is there, not just firearms, but evidence in general, so that everything is accounted for.